Alright guys, episode 41 finally. As promised, a long time ago, finally taking care of our lovely little noise. As you'll hear, I purposely stopped. I am going to go over this little hump, and you'll hear our noise hopefully on the camera here. So, I don't know if that's going to come across in the video footage or in the audio, but we're just getting a lovely clanky noise in the front of this vehicle, and we have for a while. And it turns out, as I'll show you in closer detail later, it's our idler arm. Also, the ball joints are completely shot as well. So let's go get some breakfast. So I got help from a neighbor friend, and it turns out I have a bad idle arm, which I've already replaced, but I will show you the before video showing what that looked like and why it needed replacement. Pretty easy explanation. And the process of replacing it and how much better it was after. So to begin, because I've already done the passenger side, I'm going to show you the tear down of the driver side, which minus the idle arm, which there's only one on this 87 Dodge Raider or Mitsubishi Montero, and it's just tie rod ends. I got upper and lower ball joint issues, and then eventually I will be doing the sway bar bushings as well, but I did not get enough of those parts in time. So that will be another video for another time, but this will take care of the steering, which from what I could tell, this is factory components, so it's been on for 36 years on this rig. So step one, we obviously need to jack the rig up. For that, you'll want to make sure you get under the arms here, right about so. We're going to lift up the vehicle. I'm shooting this by myself, so don't mind the slow lift up. On the back of the wheels you can't see it, but I do have wheel chokes just for safety. Now with the vehicle jacked up, safety is always important. We put our jack stand on the frame as well, just in case the jack does fail. It's going to land on this first and slow down the descent. I'll also be doing the same thing with the tire. Once I have the tire off, I'll put it right under here under the driver's side door. So I said the ball joints were bad, and here is the visual evidence. With the car lifted up, we don't need this cap on right now, get that off. So the tire's lifted up. I put my large screwdriver under here, and hard to tell in the video, but because I'm also doing it while holding it, but there's play up and down where there shouldn't be. There's also some slight clicking noises from those ball joints not being quite what they should be right now. So there we go. That is a bad ball joint. I think this looks okay. That idler arm, is that in top-notch shape, guys? Yeah, I don't think so. I'm gonna get my idler arm switched out. As I previously showed you, it's completely shot. I've already removed a pin right here. I gotta disconnect this nut. This nut, it's gonna take it off this bar. Then this is gonna drop down. The one I got came with a brand new plate for up here. So I'm gonna get this off first, take this off, and then we'll get the rest going. Alrighty, idler arm components removed. Let's get the new one on. Not loose at all, much better. So the wheel is now off. So there's a couple things that are immediately going to come off. But first, let's talk about what's actually getting replaced. So we have the upper ball joint right here. This is loose. We have the lower ball joint right here. We have the tie rod upper and lower end. Everything else is currently okay on the rig. Maybe a little dirty, but okay. This boot is pretty well intact still and maintaining its lubricant. So I'm not too worried about the steering component over here. So we have to first begin. We get this guy off. Holds the little plastic outside cap on. Ring awkwardly comes off, so it clips into place right here, comes off. We need to take off a clip inside the auto free hub. I just have the factory hubs on this thing. These bolts are going to be mighty tight, but we don't exactly do this yet because the clip is accessible from this front plate. So in order to do that, keep the wheel from moving, we hold the hub in place using my long wedge here. Then in this particular case, an oil filter remover is actually doing the job to get it out. So just got to secure that around there. As always, it's a little tight. Loosens that up. Cap comes off. And hard to see, but inside there is a C-clip we got to take out. So sorry that took a while. Well, not that you guys noticed, but it took about 3-4 minutes of finagling there. This is that little clip. It's very awkward. I'm sure there's a special tool to do it. And I do have clip removers, but nothing that grips these just open ends. So I'm using 2 flat heads and it's incredibly awkward. So once that's out, you do have to get these bolts off here just to do some checks and whatnot. So I'm going to take this cover off. That's going to be a little bit of a fight, but I'll speed up the process. The bolts are now out, and with a little bit of a fight, this hub should come out like so. There we go. One thing that is different is the replacement seal I have is a little bit thicker, so there's a spacer that goes inside right here. Turns out I'm not needing them upon reassembly, but I'm keeping a hold of them just in case. So if after I drive it a bit, if for whatever reason things are not fitting right, I will make sure that there's no wobble room for the drive shafts there. So the next step right here, now that we have this off, is our brake calipers here. We're going to take this off. On the back we have 1 Phillips head and 2 17 millimeters, one on the top and one on the bottom, if I have that right there. Alright, that's better. Select that. And then we just don't want it dangling on that line too much. So then we work that around something steady. In this case, going to the top of the shock absorber here. Just wrapping it around as well. Keeps it out of the way. So what we're left with is something like that. The next step is to remove the clips, which I'll do this, try to do one-handed. So, but first, so you have one on the upper ball joint, one on the lower ball joint, and that apart, then one over here as well on the tie rods. I think that should just be a regular nut. Actually, yes, that has a clip as well. With the replacement ones, these just have lock nuts on them, so they don't use the pins. And I assume if that's the way they're they're pretty safe just to do it that way. But yes, we got to remove the clip from both the lower tie rod, upper ball joint, and lower ball joint. So it's not as bad as it sounds. Just using a pair of nippers, you should be able to grab the ends, bend these down, and keep in mind I'm doing this one-handed, so it's a little bit more awkward. But once you have things reasonably flat, you should be able to come to the other end right there, push that forward, and in this case it's actually pretty simple. Still need to grip it, get some better leverage here though. So pull away, pins removed. All right, pins are out on upper idle, lower upper ball, and lower ball joint. So now the next step is to get the castle nuts taken off. So we're going to take these off, and at that point all the components are loose. There'll be one more C-clip we need to remove on the upper ball joint to get that pressed out, but these are desperately bad, so absolutely we need to replace them. So I will take these nuts out and then I will shoot the next bit. Okay, so our castle nuts are taken off. These are these little guys right here. I got all of them off of the ball joints and the tie rod now, and now I need to use what my neighbor calls the pickle fork. I'm sure it has a different name. I'm gonna use that and the hammer. I can't really film it and do all that. Well, maybe. I'll try to set it down here, at least demonstrate on one. This is pretty much the same procedure for all the points, being 1, 2, 3, and 4. You gotta just loosen these connections that they pop out. Like that. Then goes in between and away. Till bam, you're out. Alrighty, it's very hard to see, but where you see the shiny spot here, yeah, right there in the middle, that is where you could tell there's a clip around here. If we don't take this clip off the upper ball joint, and to add, I should say, you should see, I successfully hammered everything off. We got the other major component off there. And now I gotta replace the tie rod right there, so, and get these ball joints removed. The lower has four bolts that hold it in place from the top. It's really dirty here, so you can't really tell. Gotta clean it up. And then the upper, like I'm saying, has a C-clip, and then this needs to get pressed out. So it's going to be fun. So I'm running out of battery juice here on my camera, so I gotta keep it brief. So lower ball joint comes out with these 4 bolts. These 2 are held in place, so we're pretty lucky. But these 2 are not, so you gotta hold both the top and the bottom, and then they'll come out. I've released the C-clip right here. This sits right up here on this plate. If you do not take this out, it is quite a pain to press this out with the press. And I will try my best to record that here in a little bit, but first I'm going to get the lower ball joint out because that's a little bit easier. Lower ball joint is in, all mounted, nice and shiny. This one is sealed. It does not have a zert point. In fact, I think only the replacement upper ball joint is going to have a zert in the ones I have. The rest is sealed. So next step for the upper ball joint is we got to press it out. So you got the cylinder piece here. I know there's probably a technical name for it, and then a cap that goes on top. That's going to sit right up here like so. Then from the bottom we're going to have the piece I just misplaced, right here. This goes in the bottom of the press like so, and so I don't get caught, I use a bit like this. The vise goes in between, and I simply press down on the gear. So 1 second, I'll get set up. Alright, so a little different than I thought. I'll have to see if this gives us enough movement. The bolt's sitting through, we tighten up here, it's going to eventually push against here, pulling it up, and it will pop out. Let's give it a go. And like that, with ease, see the whole ball joint is now lifted up. And keep in mind, if those ball joints are really fighting you, it's either rusted shut and it's really hard, or there's a C-clamp behind there. I may or may not learn this by lesson on the other side. Foolish me. But that's a story for another time. So reverse order. Now pressing down from the top with the little cup on the bottom, we're going to tighten that down, and it's going to press that in. As quickly as that, you see, now we're all the way pressed in. If I take the pressure back, I could get the press off here. Gonna do this a little one-handed though, so it's gonna be a little clumsy. We have to get the C-clamp off, of course. There's all my bits, but that's all right. Put it in the box. Yep, so there we are. Keep in mind, you do need to reinstall the C-clamp right here. I'm gonna get that on next. All right, C-clamp is on. It's dark, so it's really hard to see it, but it's in there. And the next thing that comes with this upper ball joint, of course, is its little zert point. As I said, this is the only one that actually has a zert point. All others are sealed, so there's no need to worry much about them. I'd say that's a 5/16. Tighten the zert point down. Like so, bam, you're on. We have the replacement pin for the castle nut as well, right here. Keep those right there. Castle nuts on this one already. Got to do the tie rods upper and lower next, the adjustments. So what I'm doing, because I'm not an alignment expert, so I'm measuring the tie rod here from end to end, not including the zert point, of course. I'm noticing this is 13¼ inch long. So I'm going to separate the adjustment shaft here after I get all this caked on gunk built off here, and we're going to install the new ones accordingly. It's going to be a little bit tight. We actually have to use 2 wrenches usually to loosen this, and once they're loosened they'll generally come off pretty well. But I'm also going to have to get the nuts off here, and that's where it gets tough. There's 36 years of buildup on here, but it'll be fun. I'll show you in the end. So these aren't the worst in the world, but these outer sills, I replaced the other one because it was completely shot. It's letting water in. We were getting some rusty residue on here. So on this time, we're just replacing them both, as you should. So I'm going to get this out. The new seal is in. I'm using the good old powerful hammer. Should not leak anymore. I have installed the new castle nuts down below and up above. We're back on here. However, unfortunately, we're going to be delayed till tomorrow because I had to break the old nut with how stuck this was on there, on the old tie rod here. So I didn't realize it's a left-handed thread. I have the set nut for one side, but not the set nut for the other. I'm going to have to incomplete it today, but I will finish the reassembly. So up next, we're going to get all this front end back together here, get that all buttoned up, and we'll call it good. Little C-clip is in here now, so we're good to go. We don't need that spacer, evidently. Actually, I thought so because the other side was the same with these new seals for the rear axle seal. I'm going to get a little bit more grease in here and then go ahead and close her up. I can't do too much more today, but I will get the brakes all put back on there. That way they're not hanging, and I'm just gonna have to wait. It'll be tomorrow, but we'll get the tie rods on there. 13¼ inches wide they need to be set to. Then we should be good to go. And then after that, of course, I'm going to go through and re-lubricate all the good bushings on here because the other ones were okay and in good shape. But they'll be in much better shape when we're done. But for tonight, this is the end of it. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Well, as is tradition, delay after delay. So we are all the way back together. If you want to aim it a little more this way. See, we're together. We got new upper ball joints, new lower ball joint, if you could see that. Inner and outer tie rod. I was probably using the wrong term in the rest of the video. However, due to the sleeve being so darn tight on there, you see all our icky marks and scars from freeing it up. We had to sacrifice a nut, the lock nut, right here where my finger is. That is a specific threaded. It's M16 1.5 left threaded. Keyword left threaded. There's nowhere in town that has this. I've had to order it, and we're probably looking at minimum a 1 week delay. So I can't use this for my upcoming trip, which is going to be a fun little one, which you'll probably now see this episode in reverse order. I was intending to have this done before the ghost town visit to the ghost town of Golden, but now you guys know. So going back, that's why the videos are now out of order, because I was hoping to have this fixed. So for now, that's everything. There's really not much else to say. I'm just buttoning everything up. I've lubricated all the zerts in the system. Up here, down here on the pitman arm. This pitman arm is still okay. That's why we were not replacing it. But everything else has been lubricated. Everything is installed. and I should be able to just remove this adjustment sleeve without uninstalling the tie rod ends, just by loosening this all the way back, and then of course tightening for adjustment, which in my particular case 13¼ inches from end to end I need this to be set to. And fingers crossed I am not having to take the vehicle to an alignment shop. So until a clip in the future here, this is where we're at. See you next clip. Alright, long story short, I tried to get this back together, but the adjustment sleeve I did have decided to lose its threads on the inside. So here's a new one, and I replaced the tie rod here that had some damage on it. So I'm going to get the replacement adjustment sleeve on right now. Now that the adjustment sleeve is on all the way and the other end of the tie rod is secured, nothing's moving anywhere, it's good to go. No strip threads this time, so that's great. We need to adjust that this tire, because the wheel is relatively straight right now, but you see our wheel is not. So we're simply going to use a 7/8 inch wrench and move this the right direction to move the wheel inwards. Like so. Moving it towards the car. And that's pulling the wheel in very slowly. Alright. The wheel is relatively straight. I need to make sure my steering wheel is confirmed as centered. Then I need to do the fine tuning of the alignment of the wheels on each side. And then I need to do the measurements to see how my alignment is. This is a crude way to do it. On the front set of tires, you measure in the middle on the front side and the middle on the back side as far up as you can. If those measurements are centered, you know the wheels are centered. That's the rough, crude methodology behind it. So the steering wheel centered, adjusted the tie rod adjusters, locked them down. Now I'm just replacing the few bushings I do have for the sway bar here. Mainly these guys right here, pretty self-explanatory. Loosen the nut on top, loosen the nut and bolt down here, replace the various bushing components, and voila, you're done. The ones I do not have in yet today, which are pretty self-explanatory, is a singular nut right here. And then this comes off, you replace this little bushing, and bam, you're done. The steering on the thing should be a lot better after that. I have done what I can today. I do need to get some longer bolts for the edge ones over here. I had to put the old ones back on. But new ones up here for these arms. And right here, I got these ones coming. And like I said, I got to get longer bolts for the other one. That's this episode for now. I will let you guys know once I finish up the rest of the sway bar, and we should be good to go. The repair's completed for now. It's driving a lot better and should be good for quite a bit of time. All these parts I took off and replaced appear to be original, so it's pretty impressive, about 36 years old. And yeah, I'm very pleased that it's working better.